Welcome everybody to the Discuss, Learn, Practice series of the Neurodevelopment Institute. And the Neurodevelopment Institute is a not-for-profit organization, and our mission is to create awareness of how understanding the human brain better can improve life for individuals, communities, and the planet as a whole. Quite ambitious. My name is Gabriela Benko. I'm co-hosting this event that my colleague Deirdre Morrison hosts today. And with Deirdre, you will be looking at two techniques to generate insight and refine thinking. So these exercises are a lot of fun, and if we need a new perspective, they can really help us to both zoom in or zoom out. If you have any questions, they come up during the session, please put them down in the chat and we'll get back to them. And just before I hand it over to Deirdre, I would like to invite you to think about and put down one of your struggles with insight or overwhelm, and just if you could share it in the chat, I would appreciate it.
And can I just check whilst we're doing that if everybody can actually see the slides, or are you seeing?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. Oops, daisy. There we go. Okay.
So any struggles with insight or overwhelm, if you could put down in the chat.
Gabriela?
Yes?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what you are expecting from us.
So if you have, any struggles with insight, or you might feel overwhelmed, then, whatever comes up with this topic, which is related to insight, and you have any struggles, I would appreciate if you put that down, like Sharon put down. She would like to have more insights.
Mm. And maybe sometimes, if you have a situation where you are feeling overwhelmed, how it actually sits with you. So for some people that will really give them a sort of like a tunnel vision almost, where they can't see the wood for the trees, or it might just bring them to a state of paralysis where they can't really do anything. There are just too many decisions to be made, too many things to think about. So it's really just trying to get an idea how it affects each of us individually here. And maybe I'll just make a little start, because I think as we talk about it, it might come to you more easily what is actually the things will start to, I think, come to our heads as we talk it through. So we live in a world that is absolutely bunged with information. There is so much information on our phones, on our televisions, in our car radios, on our bookshelves, on our email inboxes. There's just information, information, information. We're having so many thoughts all the time. There are so many possibilities for what we could do, for what we might want to do. And it is, I've chosen this picture to describe this, because it's as though we're driving down this information superhighway, and it's okay if you get like a little splatter of mud or one or two insects on your windscreen. That's okay. You can still see where you're going. You still have clarity. You've still got good visibility. But when it starts to overload, then it becomes very, very difficult to navigate anything that you want to do. And you have less and less clarity. So yeah, it's if you've ever used one of these blenders to make something, you'll know that it's not really a good idea to overfill it either. It becomes ineffective when we stuff too much into it. And that, of course, can lead to some kitchen disasters, which we won't talk about right now. But those the blender popping its lid is not a good thing. This is just a little humorous graphic that I found, but it really tickled me, so I thought I'd share it with you, because we do have sometimes too much freedom of access to information, and we have I think, a little bit of a tendency to veer between hunter-gatherer when we're searching for specific information and hoarder when we're not searching for specific information. We think, oh, you know what, I'll come back to that next week, or I'll look at that, or that might be handy some other time. And all of a sudden we find that we've got this mountain of stuff that we really have no hope of actually getting through effectively. And for me, I suppose the question is, why do we hoard all this stuff? And I think certainly from my own perspective, I know that there's this idea that we might need this later. We might want something at some other time, but you know, realistically, that may or may not ever happen. But it is, I suppose, based a little bit in fear of missing out on this opportunity to use this information that we have found. And we're very attached to our knowledge as well, aren't we? That, you know, we like knowing stuff. It's good to know stuff, and having access to stuff that we can tap into when we need it is great, but being able to tap into it properly is the thing. So for tonight, what I would say is, you know, just stay curious about what comes up, and just go with your gut. And this is a playful session. We're not really trying to do anything that will be too serious with this one. Now, if you think about the storms of information that we might have on the one hand when there's too much and when it's overwhelming, then we have on our, oh gosh, I'm going to have to decide whether this is left or right now. Anyway, we've got a tornado on one side, which is not where we want to be at all. And then on the other, we have a very useful tool, which is a funnel. And when we've got too much to intake, we can funnel it down and make it more digestible and have better intake. And also maybe direct our information a little bit better too. So how do we sift and sort through this information? What we're going to do tonight is look at two different tools. Again, both are very playful, very useful to refine and distill some information that we might have and find some insight in that. So we're trying to go from too much to just right in terms of what we're looking at. Now, this quote came up to me, and you know, in fact, I've been talking with both Gabriella and Ellen about this Tiago Forte recently, and we have differing opinions on some of his output. But I think that this quote still stands for me. It takes skill and courage to let the details fall away. And I think that's one of my key pieces for tonight, you know, that this is a skill that we can build. And we have to be brave enough to try it and brave enough to use it. And one of, I think, the good ways to develop that bravery is to be playful with something. Now, we're going to try something called the satir funnel. Has anyone come across this before? No? Okay, so this is something that I was introduced to this in a coaching setting, but it is not necessarily just, it's not a tool just for coaching by any means. It's just a very useful thinking mechanism, a thinking tool. And it was developed, or at least I was introduced to it as something that was used by a lady called Virginia Satir, who was a family therapist. And what was told to me was that she would use this as a game whenever the children that she was working with particularly were trying to describe a big and overwhelming set of circumstances or feelings or something that they couldn't quite hone in themselves on what was the important thing for them. So it is a playful tool to clarify thinking and priorities. And Virginia Satir, actually, she has a far more famous model of change, which you may come across at some stage if you look her up. So here's the thing: we are going to please retain a spirit of play and curiosity for this exercise, and it should all work out very well. I think at this point, actually, maybe if Gabriella and I did just run through a little example that we went through last week when we were preparing for this. Gabriella, do you want to maybe explain what you were dealing with, what your situation was?
So the situation is that I have to go through my books, and I love books, but I need space. And I have to make decisions, what to get rid of, what to give away, and how to do this process. I don't want to. I have, a lot of feelings. I started to do it, and then I was blocked because I had a lot of feelings coming up, and I was lost. So this is actually my big dilemma.
So we will go through this in a few minutes, but we're just going to break down a little bit of what Gabriella and I did, and then we'll try it again, or you can try it as we're doing this. I think we'll just run through it, like maybe all in one go at the end. So what did we do then, Gabriella? You had a few minutes to just tell me what it was that was going on, and then what happened next.
Yeah, so basically I described the situation, and just even for me, new connections came up, and new words and new ideas as I was talking. And
but then I got brutal, right?
Then you got brutal, and that was where the funneling started, because I had to restate it in less words. So this was the second step. So first I was just going on, and the next one was that I had to, shall I just talk about the experience or the process as well?
I'll let you choose whichever you think is most appropriate.
Well, I think so. Basically, that I had to use less and less words, and it somehow focused me, and also took me to areas where I wouldn't have thought I would get to. So because I had to say the same thing instead of a lot of sentences or several sentences, and finally got to one point, and to understand what that point means to me. But during the whole process, I had feelings coming up which I didn't experience, and that was very different from the feeling when I was there with my books. And it clarifies my thinking in that sense, that we did this, I think, last week. And I have now new ideas, and it has been on the back burner, and it's as far as I can feel it brought me clarity, a lot of clarity.
Good. And this is the sort of thing that you can try for yourself, but you can also try with a friend or a partner, or just, I don't know, grab someone off the street if they're willing to do it with you. Highly unlikely, I know, but yeah. So shall we maybe, as we go through this, just take the few minutes, if anybody wants to try this, if you have got something that you would like to maybe summarize in a few sentences, if there's a challenge or a situation or a mild problem that you have got, then we can work through this, and we'll do it as a group and then see how it comes up. So we'll just take a couple of minutes to think about this, and I'll put on some elevator music, and everybody can
just before that, I would like to ask everybody if it's clear what you are expected to do now in these 2 minutes. So any questions, or you have clarity? All good?
So if I can just reformulate. So we think of a situation that was a challenge to us, and we describe the situation.
In a few sentences, you write it down.
Yeah, so this will typically be a situation where we have too many options or choices. There are conflicting things that are offering us potential ways to proceed, and we're trying to work out which one we should do, or we're just facing maybe confusion, lack of clarity, something like that in the situation.
Okay.
This is almost working backwards from a coaching situation, where typically somebody will come and they have something that they want to discuss, and then you pull out a suitable tool, but we're actually pulling out a suitable tool and asking you to find the thing to work with it. And again, don't worry about this being the perfect anything at this stage. This is really just an experiment. Oh, we have other people. Hello, Kate and Munya and Veronica. We didn't see you coming in there, or I didn't at least. I hope everybody has got all the information that you need. If you haven't, will you drop us a line in the box? So how is everyone getting on at this stage? Has everybody got a little scenario or a little thing that they think we can play with this?
Yep, do.
Yep. Okay. So now that we have it written down in a few sentences, the next part of our game is to, oops, a daisy, try and drive the bus. The next part of the game is not to overthink it, because what we're going to do next is restate it in 10 words. We've got to go into haiku mode here. We've got to it doesn't really matter about your grammar or anything like that. It doesn't have to form a proper sentence, just the 10 words that are most important to you. And now you've got 60 seconds to do that. Ah, interesting. Time's up, ladies. Does anybody else in this group actually, I'm just going to ask this because of a couple of things I've seen here, but does anybody else react to stress or kind of unprocessed things with a little sniffle or an irritation in the nose or anything like that? It's definitely one for me. If I know if somebody has upset me and or something is upsetting me and I haven't quite worked out what it is, I will sneeze. I don't cry, I sneeze. Anyway, that is part 2. Is everybody doing okay? Is everybody keeping up? Everybody having fun? Anybody having fun? Okay, so next step. 7 words, 45 seconds. And that's our 45 seconds done. So where do we go from here? We're now down to 7 words. I'm going to say 5 words, please. And for that, you have another 45 seconds. Go. And remember, we're just trying to get to the essence of this. We're really just looking to go with our gut, go with our intuition, and find out what it is that is really speaking to us in there. Time's up. All right, we should now have 5 words. Is everybody okay with the 5 words? Has anybody got stuck, gone off track? How are we doing?
All good.
All good? Yeah. Okay. So again, go with your intuition. We're currently at 5 words. Fire one of the 5 words. Okay, one of the 5 words has to get the sack. What's going to go? 30 seconds this time. Okay, time's up. So that should leave you with 4 words. Okay, now we're going to take another 30 seconds, but this time you're going to lose 2 of those words. If you do need to adjust them or change them or combine them, if something new is coming to you, feel free to do that. Feel free to introduce those, but you still need to have 2 words when we finish here in 30 seconds. A lot of thinking going on. Okay. That should be our 2 words. And now finally, we can either combine those into one new word, or we can decide on keeping one of them, but we've got literally 10 seconds. Go. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. So did everybody manage to get down to one word? Has anybody still got more than one word? You've got 2. Would you like to sacrifice one? Or do you need to make a new one?
If I made a new one, it'd be overwhelm. Well, that's a catch-all.
Ah, okay. So that's the most important word of in what you were doing. Okay, so let's just stick with that for a second, Kate, and ask the question. That's the single word that you've got remaining. What's anybody else's word? Can we get a run round on what people have got left, just out of interest? Anybody want to share or drop it in the comments, whichever? Go ahead, Veronica. You're muted.
So yes, for me, it's focus. So I was kind of like, I think, like working around it, business focus, what should be my focus today, or what should be my business focus today. So at the end, it ended up being more like focus.
Wonderful, thank you. And Munia has got one.
Yeah, for me, it would be want, and the 2 words were prioritize, want.
Ah, interesting. Thank you. Okay, so now the question is, why is it the most important word? And this is obviously something for yourselves. If you do want to share, that's absolutely fine as well. But why is that word the one that was remaining for you? Now, obviously, there are all kinds of other side conversations and side quests that you could have through this exercise if you were doing it sitting over a coffee with someone or something like that. But we're just really making it very, very minimal tonight in order to get through it and to have time to do the other one as well. But that, I think, is at the end of this, when you come down, when you have shed all of the other things, when you have just, you've let go of whatever expectations might have come with it, or whatever wants or desires might have come with it, and you've got this single word. I think this is the question that we then have to ask: why is that the one that remains? Gabriella, whenever you were doing the exercise, what was the word that remained for you, and why?
Value. And that's a good question. Why? Because there are a lot of layers here, and just I would focus on one. I have books that I would like to go back when I get old. If I get old, I will be as lucky to get old. I have books that I want to have by my side because I use them, so it's professional. And there are books that have emotional value. There are some books that I just love, and this is So the value has a lot of facets. I understood that, but it helps. I think it will help me.
Well, here's the next question. Would anybody be prepared to share with us what your opening sentences were, and then the journey down through the refinement, the funneling this evening? Would anybody care to share that? It's okay if nobody wants to, but it would be interesting if somebody has an appropriate one. Go for it, Veronica. Thank you.
Sure. So for me, I think it's like feeling overwhelmed with different courses or classes I'm taking and working on my business as well. So like keeping track of things and not getting overwhelmed, but moving forward, making progress in my business and like building my business. So just asking myself what happens when I'm at peace, what would I need to focus on? So it's kind of like related, I think, for me, having a lot of times just focusing on 10 different things at the same time. So, and then it's hard to focus on building a business, even though a lot of courses or classes I'm taking might support me in that, but it's like also knowing which direction, more having a clear focus and vision of which way I'm going, rather than going like 10 different directions, because then the movement is very slow. And then the one thing I pointed out, then, there are certain things I can just do it like for fun, whether it's a writing class that can help me with business and everything else, but those things kind of more in the spare time, but then focusing still like a tunnel vision or whatever, when it comes to business, like what does my business need today? What do I need to focus on versus just like, treating as everything else. So like focus, I guess you can say priorities also, right? Being clear on that and being able to distinguish that so like I don't have to run and jump like on every shiny object that is in front of me.
Perfect. So when you brought it down to 10 words, what were your 10 words?
My 10 word, you know what? I don't know if I did it the right way. I think I was like more writing a sentence, I guess, rather than, because the 10
Well,
words
if it's sentence, that's absolutely fine. If you can work a 10-word sentence, that's perfect.
Right, let me just see. Focus on business growing activities, fun in the spare time.
Okay, excellent. And then when it went down to 7, what happened?
So then I had, what does my business need now? Where is my focus today? Where is business focus? And then it ended up being focus.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. So that's the whole funnel there. Excellent. And it sounds like you maybe had an understanding that this is what you needed as you started out. Were there any surprises for you in the process?
I think a lot of times, with my ADHD mind, sometimes I just go, like overwhelmed because I have so many different ideas and different things. So I jump on one idea, then I like something else, then I like something else. So without even finishing things, so I jump already, my mind is already 10 activities somewhere in a different completely project than something else. So to me, it's focusing, keeping the focus, knowing what's important and staying with that and focusing on that before jumping on something else. Because if I have the tendency to do that, it's really easy for me get excited about the new shiny thing and be like, well, there will be easier, there will be bring better results faster, right? But it's like convincing myself that that will make me either happier or will make my business progress faster. But it's like slowing down and really like focusing on what's important.
Actually, there's a wonderful book that I've probably recommended in this group, or maybe even to you before, Veronica. It's called Grit by Angela Duckworth, and it's well worth reading if you can find the time.
I think I might even have it, but I've never read it. So I think
it's wonderful. I think
awesome.
You might enjoy it.
She has a great YouTube TED Talk, 20 minutes, wrapping up what this is about. And it's a great talk as well. Well, before you read the book, before you buy the book, if you want to
before you get down another rabbit hole.
I might have it in my Kindle or whatever. I have like so many books there. That's another thing, right? To get to all those books. No, but perfect. That's wonderful.
Thank you, Veronica. Listen, I just want to actually, is there anyone who came up with something that they weren't expecting to come up with? Was there something that surprised you? Again, maybe everybody has been working on something that they're they're funneling something where they have an either or, you know, you've got a fair idea of what to expect from this, but maybe something came up for someone along the way that they weren't quite expecting tonight. No, I think anyone else want to give us a quick rundown, your top 10 words?
Can I just ask a quick question? So they were supposed to be more like versus like just one sentence. They were kind of supposed to be 10 unrelated kind of words, right? Or
it doesn't matter. It's actually how if it comes in one sentence for you, that's fine. If you've got to speak caveman and drop the verbs, drop the adjectives, and only go for keywords, that's absolutely fine too.
Okay.
It's whatever works for you.
May I just add something in two things that came up for me? Is because I did this exercise myself and I did it with you. And what I found is that I found to do it with you more beneficial. So somehow this social contact or, you know, being asked somehow took me to different directions. But after that, it's also doing the same thing. For example, the book thing again, alone, it was also shining the same thing. So after having it on the back burner. So I had this time element and I had also the social element. So I tried with the social and I tried alone as well. And I tried for other things. So I prefer and I found more beneficial when I was with someone in the space.
Thanks, Gabriella. That's a good observation. And I wonder if we could just, even pulling out from what you've just said there, ask the rest of the group if anybody or how anybody felt about the idea that you were only going to have a number of seconds to discard some of these words, some of which you might have been quite attached to. How did that feel? Does anyone want to give us an insight into that?
I could go. I think for me, it's always easier to do things under pressure. If I have a lot of time to sit and think about it, I'll be sitting and thinking and overthinking, like what's the word more important. So then I think it's more, you think with your conscious mind rather than kind of just picking what comes to your mind. So you don't go into overthinking mode because you don't have the time. You just have to make a decision fast.
Yeah, that's kind of it. Thanks, Veronica. Anyone else did anyone feel under pressure with the time? Yes, Daphne.
No, I think being under pressure is a good thing because, like Veronica, you know, it's a bit like your handbag. You know, the bigger your handbag, the more stuff you put in it. And when you go to you know, an evening do and you have to have a very small pouch, then somehow, you know, you just take the essentials. You don't take the cable for you know, to charge up your phone. You don't take I don't know, whatever it is that you might have in that huge handbag. So, you know, I always get panicky because I think, oh, I only have so much time to do something. But then I realized that if I force myself to think, okay, I'm just going to give an hour to this at the moment, you know, I only have an hour to spare. And I feel that that makes me work, as Veronica says, I'm more focused because the more time you have, it seems, you know, the more time you need. I mean, for example, if you know you have to write a thesis, and you've got 3 years to do it, you can bet your bottom dollar that it's going to be in the last year, year 3, that you actually get down to it. So, you know, I know Gabriella loves reading books and so do I. My problem is that when I read a book, I feel very interested in the book. And then if I'm going to tell somebody about it, I feel that, you know, I can't really sum up the main points. So one thing that I try to do when I read a book is I try to say, okay, you're going to be interviewed about this book. what would you say? You know, what would be the really interesting points that you, if you verbalize them, then for me, it makes it easier to memorize something. If you don't verbalize it, in my case anyway, it just seems to evaporate. And it's okay taking notes. I mean, how many books of notes have we all taken in our lifetime, and we never really read them again? So yeah, it's good to be under pressure. I think that I work best like that, because I really panic. I get so involved in details, and that's why I said a framework. For me, a framework is my what should I say? My helpline. You know, I know that if I have a framework and I stick to that framework, I'll get it done. But if I don't have a framework, then I just, you know, I can be 3 weeks writing an article of 500 words, you know. Anyway, so that's, sorry.
No, thank you. Thank you very
I'm
much.
waffling on again, Gabriella.
We'll limit you to 10 words next time.
Yes.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share, any observations from having done this? And is it something that you think you might do again? Or inflict on someone else?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to do that again if I have to take, or if I want to get more focus, or especially in this kind of overwhelmed situation, maybe like, okay, come on, like, what's your major focus now? Like, get it down to one word, and just getting a focus by trying to get a focus.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that's it. Absolutely.
I think it's also a great thing to do with, you know, clients, because a lot of them like feel overwhelmed, stressed about so many things that they have to do, so many things in their life. So rather than me trying to get it out of them when their priorities are, that's kind of an easier way for them in a quick period of time to figure it out on their own, without me like asking them a zillion questions and things like that. So I think it makes it a lot of easier, because then they feel that they've discovered it themselves rather than me trying to get it out of them.
And absolutely. And if we go back to why Satir developed this tool, you know, she was working with kids. And again, you know, if we have kids ourselves, or we're dealing with younger people or whatever, it is also a great way to play with this, you know, because sometimes there are very big emotions and things that feel enormous for children. And the idea here is that we can go, well, you know what, let's see what's the shortest way we can say this. And it's really not about taking away from the importance of what's being felt. It's really zooming into what is the most important piece or pieces of that. So I hope you enjoyed that one. But yeah, please let us know if you do try it again. Is there any final thoughts on that one before we actually, do you know what, we can come back to this at the end. Let's move on, I think, maybe at this stage. Gabriella, is there anything that I've missed that you want to, shall we roll on? Okay. So that is a funnel that's going that way. Next time, the next one we're going to do is going that way. Okay. So we're actually connecting dots to create insight the next time. Let me see if I can get this to move on. Okay, we've done that part. Actually, sorry, yes, this was the one thing that I did want to add on the end of that, which is that, you know, sometimes when we have all that stuff mushing around in our brains, it does lead to these kind of holdups, this procrastination, the lack of clarity, the conflict of values, and the competing priorities. There is one thing, though, that, and I think we mentioned this in the session that we did on the Gary Klein book, Seeing What Others Don't, if anyone was there for it. And there is a sort of, this is where it kind of straddles with the next exercise. There is what I call this pregnant procrastination, which is where I know that I'm waiting for an idea or ideas to connect. And it's like, you know, I'm just not doing anything, but I'm very comfortable not doing it because I know that there is something is going to happen at some point along the way. But there's a lot of kind of trusting the process and knowing what's actually going on in the background to do that. So yes, to sum it up, engage with the essence and release the rest is my my synopsis of the satir funnel, and many things in life, actually. I used to make I'm a trained leather worker. I make hand stitched handbags, and that was my motto for handbags was carry less, do more. So I think it's the same with information this time. Right. So the next one is the exercise wheel. And this is the question. A lot of us, we now kind of, the start with why is such a catchy little motto. It's easy to kind of go with that and go, okay, so why am I doing this? Why? Tonight, I would like to encourage you to turn that on its head and let us start instead with why not? Okay. So we're just going to throw caution to the wind. And for this one, we're not going to funnel down so much at all. We're going to go the other way around. We're going to come at it some other way. So here's the mission here. For everything that you would give up a weekend of your time to do, then you get to draw. Actually, hang on, let me go back one slide first, because when Gabriella and I were talking through these slides, she made a lovely point. She says, I think that this dot is me. So if everybody's got a page of paper and you can draw a dot in the middle of it, that dot is going to be you tonight. And then I've drawn an example. So I'm just drawing all kinds of things here that I would like to learn more about, that I would hand over folding money and go on a course to learn about. I would give up my time to do it. I would want to talk to other people about it. I would have, I just have this interest in it. These things are completely random. Like beekeeping and intuition and storytelling and low-tech solutions and permaculture and anthropology and animal cognition. There's, that's just a snapshot. But the thing here is that you don't put anything on the list that you think that you should learn about. I should learn about bookkeeping. I should learn more about spreadsheets. I should probably learn more Irish. I'm not interested in stuff that you think you should learn. If you should learn it, then forget about it. It's not on this list. The 11th commandment, thou shalt not should. So this is one. Now, you might have a lot of ideas already about things that can go on this wheel. What I would say is that if you're already putting things down on it, that's great, but they will filter through over the course of a couple of days, and you can keep adding to this for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time. In fact, you can put it on your notice board or whatever, and every time you have another idea for something that you'd love to do, you can stick it on that wheel. And that also takes the onus off us to act on that impulse there and then. We can put a pin in it, as they say. So ideally, you're looking to get maybe 25 or 30 things on your wheel, more if you've got them, but probably not less than 25 or 30. All right. So we can start this one here, but again, you'll take it with you and let it fester for a few days.
Deirdre, Kate is asking, is this a list of things I'd like to learn then?
It is a list of things that you're interested in, a list of things that you are maybe currently already know about and still would like to know more about. It might be something that, and this is a little kind of insight into what Gabriella and I were talking about as well earlier today, that it might be something that you loved before, like maybe when you were a kid, and then you ended up having to put it away for some reason, and you would still like to get back to it. You can add all of those things into this list. So it becomes a sort of a three-dimensional time picture as well. The stuff that you're currently interested in, the stuff that you have been interested in, and the stuff that you would like to do in the future as well. They can all meet in this wheel. Okay. So I will just, there's a lot of writing going on, which is great. Now, thing is, when you get your 25 or 30 done, will the temptation be to sort and organize these into a list? If this is your temptation, I'm going to ask you to resist that. Well, you can if you want, but it doesn't serve a lot of purpose really with this wheel. I mean, you can say, okay, so I'm interested in 3 or 4 different things within the arts. I'm interested in 3 or 4 different things within biology. I'm interested in these 3 things, and they're, you know, to do with travel, whatever it is. If you want, if that helps you to see the picture better, by all means, go ahead. But this is what we really want to do. And again, this ties back into our friend, Gary Klein, who, and I know some of you were at that session where we talked about insight and seeing what others don't. And one of the things, of course, that we looked at in there is this kind of creative collision. You know, what happens when 2 ideas meet, when 2 ideas that never normally meet. And yeah, I mean, the most fantastic things come out of that. And one of the things that Klein talked about in his book was a researcher who just randomly attended a lunchtime lecture at the university where he was working. And I love this story because he was working on a problem, and they were trying to isolate something in these little worms, and these worms were these tiny transparent worms, and basically they were so delicate that they were dying during these experiments. And he went to hear this lecture where they were talking about bioluminescence, and he realized in that 30 or 40 minutes, whatever it was, that he could actually use the bioluminescence to track what was inside these little worms. So it completely changed how he did his work, and it completely changed, you know, it spawned an industry basically for, I mean, that's not an exactly accurate telling of it, but the idea is that from going to this lecture that was nothing to do with his particular field, he was able to join 2 ideas and make something new and super. And Stephen Kotler, from whom this insight wheel idea comes, he talked about an example of a guy who had some things on his wheel, and he was very interested in sports. He was very interested in nutrition, and he was also very interested in sort of the idea that insects formed part of nutrition in other cultures. So what he did was, and this is kind of an idea of where we're going to go, he started asking questions. Well, you know, okay, well, could I, in my work with elite athletes, use insect-based nutrition to help them improve performance? So this is the kind of connection we're trying to draw. You know, eating insects, sport, not normally a big amount of connection, but when we smash these atoms together, we get something new. So that's what we're looking for, these creative collisions. Now you can go and you can say, right, okay, that one and that one, maybe make yourself a lottery wheel or something, I don't know, and spin it and see what happens. Or you can just roll some dice. If you don't lean into random, you can get some help with that. So depending on how many things you've got on your wheel by the time you finish, you might need a handful of dice or some D&D dice or something like that. So you can number everything that's on your wheel and roll the dice a couple of times and pair them up, or even put 3 together, see what happens. And this is where the fun starts. So has anybody managed to get Has anybody got 10 things on their wheel so far? We've got a 10. Yeah. We've got 2 10s. Anyone got more than 10? Is that a yes, Munia?
Alan has 19.
I have 15.
15. Wow. Okay, so you're all doing really well. Okay. And do you think that's a complete list, or do you think there's more to come?
No, I think that few more are to come.
I think so as well.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, the beauty of this is that we're looking for things to go on this. We're looking for more things than we would normally, I mean, these are, again, in this world of needing to focus, needing to block out distraction, it's really lovely to be able to go, oh, just bring it all on, let's put it all on the list and play with that. But again, even in playing with that, we're bringing it back to a focus point. We're bringing it back to going, okay, so number 23 and number 44. Oh, sport and insects. What am I going to do with sport and insects? Whatever it is that comes up when you roll your dice. Yeah. Is it making sense? Is there anything that we should go back over? Does anyone have any questions about how to do it?
For me, it almost looks like a kind of a two-dimensional imprint of the non-conscious brain, right? So
is that the dice you're talking about now?
No, I'm talking about, trying to put these threads, and then, I'm trying just to throw out all these little things in my brain and my interest. And after that, with this methodology that I'm trying to link crazy things together that I'm interested in, I'm trying to tap into these non-existent, maybe I'm creating the connections now, and it's a little bit playing with the non-conscious. The serendipity comes in somehow.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, there are a couple of things that come to mind about this for me, in that there are connections to be made. And this is one of the places where we can practice making connections. Just because we see a connection doesn't mean that we actually have to pursue it. But it's even, that it's that little reward that we're going to get for making the connection and having the idea anyway. And then just practicing, opening our minds up a little bit to be able to jump between things and to let go of the conventions of logical thinking and go wild, be imaginative, give that side of our brains a run in the park.
Yeah, I mean, if I can come up with just one example, and I might have already said this to Daphne. So there was a time, I was visiting a lot of people. I went to a lot of people, and we worked on English. And I said, oh, I love running. So maybe there are people, and I could teach English while we are running. So we could run, because people are stuck in their offices, right? So I could go there, and then we could go for a run and at the same time learn or, teach English. And this was an idea, but well, it didn't actually unfold, but that was one idea, one crazy idea. Maybe with walking you can do it, and maybe
you're less out of breath.
This was when I was younger, not now. I wouldn't offer this running course now.
I like it. Is anyone else seeing any? Has anyone put anything back on their list that has been at the back of their mind, or has been kind of put on the shelf to do when you've got more time, or when you when you've more time or more money or more whatever it is that you need to do it? I mean, I know a lady who put dance back. She loved dancing when she was younger and had, you know, gone down that whole road of sort of family and business and career and all the rest. And she did not dance through all of that. And she found herself at a point in her life where she really needed something for her self-care, and it came in the form of dance. But through that's just kind of opened up all kinds of creative avenues for her again. So putting that back on the table, just putting it back in the mix, has been really liberating for her. So at this stage, just again, feel free to chip in with comments or observations on this and how it's going for you there. I'd love to hear what it's like when hungry people get food brought to the table. Everybody goes very quiet for a while. I don't know if you've ever noticed that when you set the dinner down, people just go quiet. So I'm hoping that's what's happening here. But if anyone has anything they'd like to share on it, I would love to hear about it. Anything in the comments I need to catch up with, Gabriella?
Not now.
Hmm?
No.
We're good? Excellent.
Maybe I can see some people are thinking, writing, or meditating even.
Okay, well, we'll take a few minutes to do that, sure.
Can I say something?
Please.
Yeah, you're asking some feedback about, right?
Mhm.
But, for me, the way I see it is that the two exercises are very different, with
Mhm.
two different purposes. The first one helped me solve, as you said, to see things differently. I thought I had like an issue, but by reducing and putting it in the funnel, I realized that it was hiding another issue that and now I get it. For this one is, as you said, it's more about, the first one is very practical, the second one is very creative, and it's more like, okay, what it is nice because it takes like our would like into how can we make something interesting and new and more about us into it. So at least this is how I see these two exercises. So they're very separate, but they both of them have their own purpose and use.
Yeah, it's almost like we've taken things from the opposite ends of the spectrum here. One is going down, 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 and one is going out, out, out. Again, it's, you know, when people, I think, have both of them, I think, try to tackle that overwhelm in their own way. The funnel by reducing, and then this one by just spotlighting maybe a couple of things and being able to create connections between those two. And I think one of the reasons why I'm so fond of this Wheel of Insight one is because I get bored easily. And, you know, just this idea of having to do just one thing, I find that very difficult. So knowing that I can tie things together and start to look, so now I've got, oh, great, I can do two things and I'm legitimately supposed to be doing these two things instead of just having to stick with one. It really, it allows me a certain sense of creative freedom, and you've very rightly spotted that this is about creativity. It allows me that freedom, but within a structure.
Yeah, the way I see it is the first one helped me have clarity about what is the real problem. It ended up being like prioritizing what I want, because it's being overwhelmed between the should and have and somehow losing the want in it because of all the other duties and obligations that and that gave me clarity, which is basically focus on want. Final. And the other one is more gratifying because it's more about, okay, what do I like? Okay, I like to do so many things and I have so little time. So what about, okay, let's be more me, and in that little time of creativity that I can have, do something that reflects me and I can like develop myself into that. And it's not anymore about solving an issue. It's more about making something positive for myself. So this is why I'm saying that it has two different purposes, but both of them are very important. Basically, they're good. They solve, like they add value to my life.
Oh, that's very, very nice to hear. Thank you, Munia, for saying that.
So I have a question for this second exercise, because there are people, I think, who are overwhelmed, with the amount of ideas they have. So they need to funnel down and they have to gain focus. This is how I understand. And then there are people who need more ideas, because maybe how we enter this space is that, oh, but I don't have time. Oh, but I don't have the money. Oh, but can I do this? So how can I liberate myself? Because in the second one, you really have to liberate yourself. So, and go crazy. I mean, how can you prime your brain to go crazy?
That's a really good question. And I think one of the things that we have to come back to for this is the idea of letting go of expectation and letting go of should. That 11th commandment was there for a reason. We can practice various things that allow us to relinquish a little bit of the control and structure that we sometimes feel very comforted by. And it is, a lot of it is about play and curiosity and feeling safe in playfulness and curiosity as well. I mean, to be honest, I'm probably the wrong person to ask about this, because this is kind of, the water that I swim in. I find it difficult not to be like that a lot of the time. So I'm how would I reverse engineer it? I think what we're really trying to optimize here is the integration of, the kind of functions of left and right and so on. So we're not looking to swing wildly to one or the other, but we are trying to get the brain to work in its big picture and its small picture functions. And that is, I think, that's why I like these two as a sort of a, let's say, it's kind of like cheese and wine tasting, you match the two things that go together. So these are the two that I felt would work well as a pairing tonight. So we have the too much information being structured down by the funnel. So you've got that kind of overwhelm and too much freedom, kind of chaos of that sort of right hemisphere thinking when it's under pressure, when it's not in its optimum condition. And then we're structuring that down into that more, bringing on more of the talents and skills of the left hemisphere by using that funnel. Then we're going the other way with this. We're going from this little point of, okay, here's one idea, here's another idea. Oh, how can we connect these by just being random, by drawing drawing out these insights and just being blue sky about our thinking. You know, going for that very, very elevated view rather than just picking in on one and the detail. It's what if, why not? It just throws all of the caution away a little bit. And I suppose the other thing is, you know, we weren't really intending to go down into left and right hemispheric differences or descriptions tonight. Anyway, that wasn't the objective. But I'm sure there's probably something that we can come up with as a session for another time where we can dig into that a little bit more. Did that kind of start to address what you were asking me, Gabrielle, or did I just go way off topic?
I'm just thinking about the second exercise. You know, if I meet skeptics and cynical people, skeptical people, or hardcore engineers.
Oh, okay.
So,
those guys. Okay.
I mean, how can I use this? You know, this is what I'm kind of pondering about.
So if a couple of useful metaphors that we've used previously for how the brain sees things. You know, there's a lot of kind of discussion and work being done and so on about whether it is really the differences between the hemispheres that make the kind of the biggest difference in our brains and how we do and how we see things, or whether it's, you know, the various networks, the default mode network and the task positive network and so on. It's probably a little from column A, a little from column B. Jury's still out, basically. But if we think about the right hemisphere and how it sees the world and what it's very good at, then it is very good at that kind of bigger, wider vision, seeing the whole picture. And then the left hemisphere is very good at seeing the detail, the fine detail, the single pine cone in that forest. So what we need to do is to be able to integrate those two views, to be able to look at things from both those perspectives as we need to. Yeah. So this is, if you are looking to use your brain to its full advantage, then you've got to be able to both zone out or zoom out and see things from that distance, from that holistic view, as well as being able to get that granularity and those little structured, detailed views as well. So being able to exercise the brain and train it to be able to do both and to switch between those modes of seeing things, that's why you would do that.
Yeah, so what is coming up for me if I'm speaking with people who do sport, it's about mobility and also have, you know, that your muscles react quickly. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, if I'm an engineer, I'm just thinking with my engineering, so that's really tempting for me, that I can see the whole picture, but also I can, you know, get down to the
nitty-gritty
level, but I know what is important. This is talking to me. So that I'm not missing anything, but still there is a focus. So that's, yeah.
I mean, you can see how it happens that if you've got someone who spends all of their time in that big picture view, then the chances are that they're not going to have the follow through that's required to actually get the thing done, because they don't have they're not going to be making the plans, they're not going to have the detail and the structure to bring that big vision to fruition. Whereas if somebody spends all of their time on the nitty-gritty detail, they lose the big vision. So yeah, again, it is all about integration. It's about bringing these differing strengths of our brains to play together. And why do people lean into one or other? Well, there's all kinds of reasons for that, but quite often we've been rewarded for leaning into one or other of those. So we maybe have been rewarded throughout our education or our careers or at home or whatever for doing the things in order, for doing things sequentially and logically, for being sensible, for being methodical. Or alternatively, we have found another reward in not just getting away from that, avoiding that altogether, and being a completely different person, being the stereotypical creative or dreamer or whatever, however way you want to describe that. Obviously these are very kind of cartoon-like descriptions of this, but this idea that we are one or the other of these things, I think that's where people fall down. That we're all both. It's just that we don't necessarily use them equally.
I suppose these exercises, 3 words came up for me, if I can share with you, is mobility, agility, and adaptability.
Nice. Oh, gonna get you to do my copywriting.
Even though the pronunciation, I'm not sure about the last word. How do you pronounce that? But I tried my best.
What was the first one? Mobility?
Mobility, agility, and adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
And also the VUCA world came up for me, because it's a much faster world that we are living in, and was in the past, maybe being serial thinker or just being focused could have worked, but now the unlearning, relearning, rethinking, all these words, it's
so I guess at this stage we've now kind of we have opened up another Pandora's box, but a very interesting and fascinating one. But just to kind of tie it back again and see what has come up, if anything, for anyone at this stage regarding the exercises or anything else that, from this evening. What are the insights? What are the ahas? What do we need to take forward? Go ahead, Veronica.
So to me, I think that those were 2 great exercises, because one, we had to narrow things down to like the essential, but the other one was, you kind of like open your mind up. So it's kind of like the opposite of that. And something, I don't know if that would resonate with something that you were talking with Gabriella about, is to me, like, like if I write down a lot of times, like things I want to do. So I'll write like maybe 30, 40 things, right? So if it's a list of 30, 40 things, or, like say, if I put them on a piece of paper, put them around, it's kind of overwhelming again. So I'm going back to, like where I started probably in the beginning of the exercise, right? That it's overwhelming that there are so many things. But on the other hand, like I already probably have like 30, 40 things that I want to do that I have managed to do. But to me, the format that you did it, Adrian, so to me, that was kind of more presenting in an organized way. So it's like you have one wheel rather than 30 different things, so that there is something that puts them all together. It's like just one thing. So it's like under one umbrella, and it's just the different spokes, but it's still, to me, it looks a lot more organized and kind of doable, that you can just look at it and enjoy. Like you don't have to feel overwhelmed that there are so many things you want to do. It's kind of like a buffet, something like, you can just pick one or the other, you can combine them, right? You just go pick and choose what you want. So to me, like I like the format that's, because to me that's kind of like a format. I'm can be a little analytical person, that it's not like overwhelming, but it's manageable. You can smorgasbord, whatever, you can pick and choose what you want, right? Combine them in different ways. So to me, that's what I like. So to me, it looks more manageable, and it's like it's there, so like that you have it, but it's kind of still under one umbrella of things that I want to do, that it's just easier to see what it is.
Perfect. That's a really good synopsis. Thanks, Veronica. Thank you. We haven't heard from Sharon or Andrea tonight. Are you guys okay? Everything going all right for you?
Yeah, thank you. I think the first exercise was really good to get to the point, to the essence, because it's reducing to the most important fact. Yeah, which was freedom in my case. And
one of my favorite
in
words.
the second one, yeah, I had a lot of ideas, and all of them had to do with freedom in one way or the other.
Isn't it interesting the way that comes out when you start doing these things together?
Yeah. So it was quite interesting.
Thank you. Yes, thanks for sharing that. How are you, Sharon?
Yeah, good. I liked both exercises, and certainly can see applications for both myself and in other settings for both, in particular the funnel. I thought that was quite, and I like the time limit.
Oh, good.
I didn't, yeah, it didn't bother me. I mean, it actually didn't even feel like a pressure. And honestly, as I was doing it, I was always one word less than what you said.
Oh, wow. An
automatically. So no, it wasn't. No, it wasn't to overachieve, but it just happened that way that I was like, that's just what came to mind. So
can I ask you this then? And see if anyone else has any thoughts on this. Did it make a difference to hear that we were playing a game, for instance, or would it have, if I just said, right, okay, you've got, so this is your task, you've got this many seconds to do it. Does it make a difference if it's a game?
I think it does. I mean, I don't know, I'm not a big game player, but somehow I think that the playfulness that adds to it rather than a pressure, I suspect. For me, it was, I felt like, yeah, okay, let's go for it. So I mean, I think it's a useful way to do it.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things that can be overlooked if you're, for people, if you are going to do this with anyone else, if you're going to play this game with anyone else, because things can unravel as you do this. I would say that it is good to make sure that we understand and we consistently reinforce that this is a game, that it's playful, that whatever comes up, that's a different matter. If you're sitting holding a space for someone to do that, obviously you will be very much in touch with it. But I think if we pile on pressure to start with and we don't make it clear that this is to be fun, then it can take a different turn. Yeah, so there we go. I'm going to be quiet for a while.
Shall I come on? So thank you so much for joining us tonight. And in Paris, it's already 9:30. So really, thank you, Paris. So before you sign off, just to plant the seed and put it on your mind, the Brain Awareness Week. Maybe you can go to the next slide, Deirdre.
Oh, yes, I can. I can't. Hang on a second. I can.
Yeah.
I have the technology.
So the Brain Awareness Week is coming up between the 13th and 19th of March. And the NDI, so the Neurodevelopment Institute, offers several online and in-person events under the umbrella of this week. And you can find out more on the neurodevelopmentinstitute.com website under events. On our next session of the series will be on the 7th of February at 7 p.m. UK time and 8 p.m. Paris time or German time, Spain as well. It'll be a discussion about the similarities. It will be a discussion about helpful models for understanding emotions. If you enjoyed and found this event useful, please tell other people, friends, family who could benefit from these events to become a member and and participate in our events. And those who sign up for the free membership, they will have access to our resources and recordings. So this is where we officially say farewell. So thank you again, really, for joining us, and we hope to see you when we return next month.